Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. There have been multiple new 4.2 builds since my last video, with a lot of very interesting updates. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Cannot do this without you guys, so thank you so much for the support. It is truly appreciated. Okay, so first things first, Jared mentioned on Inside Star Citizen yesterday that Star Citizen 4.2 will be releasing to live in around 2 weeks, which likely means they are aiming for a Friday live release on the 20th of June. Now that's not to say that it won't be a little longer, or even release earlier in that week, but my estimation would be Friday the 20th. So not far off now, but still plenty of time to really push for more fixes, optimizations, and quality of life updates. And as stated, since my last video covering 4.2's PTU phase, apologies, real life has just been absolutely chaotic last month and going into this month, but they have released 4 new PTU patches, each one containing many updates and changes to all areas of the game. Firstly, they did some more audio mixing polish for the ambient sounds for the Stormbreaker locations, as well as further rain ducking audio mixing. Not sure what rain ducking means. But in regards to rain, personally, and weather, it is a really good starting point, but of course there is a lot more left to be done to polish all aspects of weather to get it up to that AAA or quadruple A standard that we're kind of expecting. Audio, visuals, its physics and so on can be and will be improved, but I am very happy to see its first appearance in 4.2, and I look forward to just playing the game as I always do, but enjoying much of that rain and weather going on around me, just dynamically coming in and going. Anyway, also for the first of the 4 builds, Cloud Imperium have slightly limited the dialogue wild lines for the security NPCs and increased the volume of planetary winds game-wide. Now for all medbeds, it says that medbeds will now protect players from damage for 30 seconds, or when you leave the bed after respawning, and this was, I assume, in response to players camping the medbeds at the facilities, but in a more recent build, it looks like they have moved the respawn points from the central location of the buildings to be inside or spread around 5 different satellite locations outside of the main facility. Clearly this was a big problem, so hopefully this has alleviated the whole spawn camping issue, making it a lot harder for anybody to just camp the medbeds. Now, continuing on, they have also adjusted the radiation sickness thresholds for tier 1, 2, and 3 injuries, so you can actually get sick, and as expected, these radiation med pens that were brought into the game quite a while back, in fact, will rid you of radiation sickness, or at least temporarily until you can get to a proper bed. Now, for shops, they have added the Vault Shotgun magazines, the new Vault Shotgun. They have also added the new environmental suit to shops, as well as the flight controller blades. Now this I am very happy to see. Getting the blades in-game to be bought with in-game currency is definitely a big win. They will also be distributing these flight controller blades to loot pools, so that you can find them out in the middle of nowhere. So again, very happy to see that they have done the right thing by not just limiting them to real money for even a temporary duration, and they've made them available in-game for in-game currency, or lootable. Very happy to see that. Anyway, for other updates in the first build, they have increased the temperature of Pyro 4, not sure what from or to. They've also done further updates to the AI for the juvenile and adult Valakar traversal, lightning stun strikes and impact effects, plus increased the adult's slam explosion radius. Now for vehicles, they have slightly reduced the Gladius's max pitch velocity, and for the Idris, they have added missing gimbals on turrets and retuned the remote turret's traversal speeds. And the Idris is in desperate need of 4.2 because it is in a bit of a state. Now for the first build, there were also 8 potential bug fixes, including fixing the ability to turn in gems while in prison, which is very important for getting out of prison in a timely manner. The Idris exterior lights should now be present amongst a few other fixes. Now moving on to the patch that dropped, I think it was on the 2nd of June. This brought with it a lot of the Stormbreaker polish with art, audio mixing, LODs, lighting, shuttle and performance polish being the main focus. They also made further polish on the lightning and rain effects, and the min-max length and spawn frequency of lightning as well. For the Valakar, the Apex also saw a lot of balance and polish, including its animations and skin texture, but also with its mouth no longer providing bonus damage. However, its weak spots can take full damage, but its armored areas will take much less damage. The Valakar can also create additional radiation hazards that will decay over time in strength. Now, it has also received quite a lot of different tweaks and balancing to its stats, with adjustments to reinforcement call time, distortion behavior, projectile damage, and a lot more. For the rain volumes, they have adjusted its density on Hurston and ArcCorp and re-enabled dynamic rain on Pyro 4, and it looks like most of the planets, or the main planets, are getting dynamic rain, the ones that make sense. I know they disabled it on Pyro 3 and Pyro 4 in a previous patch, but now that they've re-enabled it on Pyro 4, the planets with rain are Pyro 1. Well, I think Pyro 1 is maybe just localized to the radiation storm. I don't know if there is just normal rain around or dynamic rain around Pyro 1. There could be, but Pyro 4 definitely, Hurston and ArcCorp as well, and I assume that other locations will get it as well before 4.2 releases to live. I suspect they will re-enable it at Pyro 3, but I don't know about Microtech or Monox or anywhere else. Now, there has been a lot of balancing for torpedoes and missiles in this second build, with all missiles and torpedoes being adjusted to increase the lock ranges and timers, plus adding a minimum activation distance for torpedoes now around 1500 meters, but also decreasing the min-max explosion radius when it hits, as well as increasing their health. So quite a bit to break down there. Increasing the minimum lock range means that you will need to be further away to use them or to get a lock on, plus the speed at which they get locked on has been increased, so it takes longer to get a lock on and you have to be further away. Plus the area of impact is smaller, but they have increased the health of the missile and torpedo, so it sounds like they can take a little bit more damage than before. So, as always, a lot of changes there to tweak and test, and time will tell whether these changes are good or bad, but I'm sure there will be more balanced changes in the future. Now, for this build, they have done more audio polish for the bolt shotgun, removed the ability to disable clouds completely via the user CFG file, and extended puddle draw distance and polished the 3D comms notification. And there were also 14 potential bug fixes with this build. For the third patch, they have increased the Tritium trade base price, so good news for all of you Tritium traders and haulers out there. For Stormbreaker, there was a ton more polish updates, with visual effects and lighting updates, facility art and collision updates. The shuttle doors have now been removed and replaced with air shield entrances instead. They've added cover structures between the infirmary buildings and the main facility. They have increased the aggression of the cleanup of dead Valakar, reduced the number of AI reinforcements within the data lab interior. They have added Copian around the pillar, updated the auto spawn settings for the data lab, unified the min-max spawns to remove randomness in numbers of NPCs spawning throughout the facility, and they have adjusted the storm distortion volumes to fix the natural quantum travel spline approach from causing distortion. So quite a lot of tweaking there for, as always, each patch with this new event or this new activity. Lots and lots of stuff to try and smooth it out to make it play smoother and better, and I'm sure they will continue to do so. Now for the Apex Valakar, this also saw a lot more balance and polish, with new animation events for Submerge and Emerge. They polished its raw and weak point visual effects and audio. They also added some polish to the sweeping projectile attack and Apex hazard area and weak spot impact and slam effects. Plus for the Valakar Pearls, it says that they have updated the master records and added the ability to store the pearls, as well as updated the cargo grid volumes for their fangs. Now, in the next patch, in the most recent patch, they are adding freight elevators, which we'll speak about in a second, so making the whole process of getting the actual things from the Valakar much more streamlined. Hopefully, in maybe not 4.2, but a patch post 4.2, there may be certain components that we can put into our ships or vehicles to allow us to get to the facility and back again, or maybe even a ground vehicle that will allow that, as it would be very cool to be able to make our way there in a vehicle, but not every vehicle. Anyway, Also in this build, they have added bigger cloud formations to Pyro 4, greatly improved the torpedo tracking capabilities, and increased the Idris Alpha damage to meet the size 7 damage weapon standards, so it's gone from 2306 to 6750. So quite the increase there, making the Idris even more formidable. For the Prowler, this has seen moderate health, damage reduction, and critical damage threshold increases. And for the Atlas Ichty, this has had a visor polish, plus its weapons can now be tractor beamed off and replaced, and I assume with any weapon of the same size, which is very fun. Now, there are also some server performance optimizations, and they have refactored how they handle cleanup and lifetime of entities spawned by mission location modules to allow for better handling after a dedicated game server crash recovery. There was also 10 more potential bug fixes, and throughout the 3 builds, multiple client crashes and server crashes fixed, as well as a server deadlock crash fixed. And then for the most recent build, which dropped last night, this has a lot of changes and updates. As mentioned, one of the new features that were added but not yet ready for testing, but absolutely needed for these new Lazarus facilities, is the freight elevators. Now this says, in this build, you may have noted new freight elevators around the Lazarus facility and transport hub. These are not yet enabled, but will be in an upcoming PTU build to provide one-way freight transport between the 2 locations. Now, as mentioned, having to carry the Valakar harvestables on the transit system was clearly a big problem, so this now allows players to use the freight elevators at the Lazarus facility, storing them in the local inventory, focus on fighting their way back via the transit hub, and then once you get to the transit hub area, you can retrieve them from the freight elevator and load them into your ships. Now, speaking about this whole sandbox activity at Lazarus Pyro 1, for me it is a cool concept, and I'm sure I will thoroughly enjoy exploring these locations, but for the initial drop, just like we saw with the Hathor stuff, I will be avoiding them, as they will just be pure chaos for quite a while as everyone comes to check them out. Over time, again, as we see with the Hathor locations, they will begin to quieten down and become just another point of interest for interesting gameplay and exploration. They will be frequented much less by players, especially as I'm sure there will be new locations in 4.2.1 and 4.3 and so on and so forth. I also fully expect Cloud Imperium to hook up all of the other mission archetypes to these locations, like the handyman missions, the delivery missions, investigation missions, and whatever else they create with this whole new dynamic mission system. Every point of interest that we have already and see in the future will have a multitude of use cases. For their initial drop, they are just used as hotspots for content to keep players engaged, and most of the time it is PvP stuff, but long term they are to be points of interest for all and every type of gameplay. Anyway, with that said, moving on. For this build, they have also rolled out a fix for loot containers not opening. There was also a lot more Stormbreaker and ASD location polish, with location LODs, lighting and art polish, plus AI navigation and behavior polish, as well as location music improvements. For the Valakar, they have removed the adult explosion radius, which they say was not intended, but reduced the Apex Valakar explosion radius from 20 meters to 10 meters. They also adjusted the Apex non-weak spot damage multiplier by 1%, stopped everyone dying when someone tried to mine the Apex pearls, polished its animations and attack movement, and removed the ability to scan the Apex Valakar from when you are above the storm with a ship. So again, continuing to heavily polish the Valakar Apex and Adult, and I do hope they add the normal Apex and Adult to other locations like Daymar and Monarchs for 4.2. It's not looking promising, so it might be a post 4.2 they come along, but my fingers are still firmly crossed. Now for vehicles, they added new scanning mode user experience updates for more clean information. Very nice. I haven't seen them yet, but I am wondering how much of the updated scanner radar and signature systems can roll out before it all has to come in its entirety. They've also updated the 300 series loadout kits to use 1-to-1 gimbal size setup instead of the sizing down gimbals, which is absolutely about time. I had no idea that the 300 series was still using the old drop one size down gimbal thing. So very happy to see the 300 series getting a bit of love. Obviously, much more is needed, and over time it will get it. In core tech, there were further server and AI navigation performance optimizations, and there were 13 more bug fixes or potential bug fixes with this build, including another 300 win in which the 300i customizations were missing, so they should be back again. The check-in kiosk at New Babbage should no longer be stuck on checking availability, which was fixed in a prior build and then it came back again, so hopefully that is fixed for good now. The Anvil Karak should no longer be missing its cargo grid and bay doors, and the Freelancer Miss should have its missiles again, and a few more bug fixes too. Currently, with this latest build, there are 7 known issues. None of them are rated by severity just yet, as there is still more time before the patch releases to live. But there was also 1 server crash fixed and 1 hybrid service crash fix. So as you can see, quite a lot of updates throughout these 4 builds. So much balancing, so much tweaking, continuous polishing and optimizing in pretty much all of the new areas, and adjusting many of the old areas as well. I am sure we will see plenty more PTU builds for 4.2 over the course of June, with its live release, as we know, coming in around 2 weeks' time. And so with such a good chunk of time, a couple of weeks now remaining till live, I hope and expect to see a lot of other quality of life and bug fixes for all areas of Star Citizen, not just the new 4.2 content, which we are already seeing with these other patches. It is not just 4.2 stuff, but as I say, my fingers are firmly crossed to see the Apex Valakar on Daymar and Monox. Man, it would be cool to get them on there. But with that said, if you would like to convert your phone or tablet into your ship's dashboard, you can get 15% off a GAMEGLASS lifetime pass, or 10% off a monthly or annual pass. Plus you can use it for free with the option of up to 3 shards, like this Aegis one, which is very cool. And any purchase made using my link does directly support my videos, providing my channel with a direct kickback. So a huge thank you in advance if you choose to do so. But that is it for this video. If you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Also, come and hang out over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother. You are all more than welcome over there, or here on YouTube. I am live on both, and regardless of whether you are brand new to the game or a veteran, you are all welcome. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you'd like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. You guys are amazing. Thank you for the support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.